In 2025, the world's most technologically advanced nation is experiencing a silent housing revolution. More and more people are turning their cars into their only shelter. The numbers are staggering. Homelessness has surged 18% in just 1 year, affecting over 770,000 people. But what's even more shocking is who these people are. Many aren't homeless in the traditional sense. They have jobs, earn income, carry social security cards. The only thing they don't have is a fixed address. Their home is a car parked at Walmart, a gas station, or on some street corner. This isn't a choice, it's a forced survival strategy. When rent skyrockets, wages crawl, and laws start punishing people who sleep on the streets, the result is clear. America is creating a homeless class on wheels. Truth 1. The death spiral of rent and income. A one-bedroom in Los Angeles runs $2,800 a month. In New York, it's over $4,000. What does that mean? A full-time minimum wage worker would need to work 80 hours just to cover 1 month's rent, and there are only 168 hours in a week. Over the past year, average wages in America increased by less than 4%, while rent jumped over 20%. This is a race you simply cannot win. Research shows it precisely. For every $100 increase in average rent, homelessness rises by 9%. This isn't a linear relationship, it's an avalanche effect. A Boston healthcare worker puts it bluntly: I make $3,200 a month, but a studio apartment costs $2,400. After food and transportation, I can't save a dime. Last year, my landlord raised it $400. I moved into my car. She's not lazy. She's not a failure. She's a victim of this twisted economic model. Truth 2. The invisible army of car dwellers. Official data shows over 256,000 people living in unstable shelter. Cars, makeshift warehouses, roadsides. But the real number could be 3 to 5 times higher. Why? Because car dwellers have a special ability: invisibility. Reports from Los Angeles Homeless Services show that people living in cars now outnumber those in tents. But they're not counted in street statistics, don't fit the unsheltered definition, and aren't included in emergency assistance systems. They exist in a policy gray zone. Why choose a car over a shelter? The reality of shelters is brutal. Waiting in line for a bed, submitting to drug tests, getting kicked out at dawn, enduring noise, and feeling unsafe. A car provides something shelters can't: autonomy. A former teacher describes it: in my car, I can lock the door. I decide when to sleep and when to wake up. I can hold on to a shred of human dignity. Society labels them unsheltered vehicle residents. What a bureaucratic phrase. But the reality behind it is this: a massive population is disappearing from the city map, living in our blind spots. Truth 3. How laws create invisible people. June 2024 was a watershed moment. The Supreme Court ruled that cities have the right to ban camping in public spaces and can fine or jail violators. Within months of the decision, at least 50 American cities passed anti-camping laws. On the surface, it's about cleaning up the streets. In reality, it's about clearing out the poor, removing them from sight. The effect was immediate. San Francisco saw tent numbers drop 45%, Portland 38%. But where did these people go? The answer: parking lots. San Francisco data shows that between 2022 and 2024, vehicles used as shelter increased by 37%, a timeline that perfectly corresponds with law enforcement. A San Diego veteran describes it: they tore down my tent, so I got in my car. Then I got fined $150 for overnight parking. I couldn't pay the fine, so they suspended my license. Without a license, I can't drive to work. You see how the system pushes you deeper into the abyss, step by step. When laws start defining acceptable forms of poverty, we need to be vigilant, because the next step might be normalizing and institutionalizing car dwelling, packaging systemic failure as a flexible housing solution. Truth 4. The squeezed middle class. The most shocking revelation: the profile of car dwellers completely overturns traditional assumptions. UCLA's in-depth research revealed stunning results. 52% have full-time jobs, 35% are over 50 years old, 67% previously rented or owned property, 89% have no substance abuse problems, and 71% have a high school education or higher. They're not outcasts rejected by society. They're ordinary people squeezed out by economic structures. A new sociological term has emerged: middle-tier homeless, not poor enough to qualify for assistance, not wealthy enough to maintain basic housing. They've fallen through the cracks of the welfare system. In San Jose, there's a former software engineer who was laid off with severance pay. He planned to find another job, but being 50 made him hit walls everywhere. His severance barely covered 6 months of rent, so he made a decision: keep the car, give up the apartment. I have a 2015 Honda Odyssey. I can fold down the back seats and lay out a mattress. I park at the gym parking lot. $49 a month gets me showers and bathrooms. The industrial area has free Wi-Fi where I send out resumes. I hit the laundromat once a week. Monthly expenses stay under $300, so my severance can last over a year. He doesn't think of himself as homeless. He considers it a tactical adjustment. But the system doesn't see it that way. Because he has a car, he doesn't qualify for emergency housing assistance. Because he has severance, he doesn't qualify for low-income aid. This is middle-class collapse. The bottom tier of the middle class is falling away en masse, but slowly enough not to trigger alarms, quietly enough not to make the news. Truth 5. The perfect storm of 2025. Why 2025 specifically? Because every negative factor hit its critical point this year. On the economic front, post-inflation aftershocks persist. Median rent rose 18% year-over-year, while real wages grew only 3.8%. Legally, after the Supreme Court ruling, 178 cities across 46 states passed anti-camping laws, forcing street homeless into vehicles. Socially, all pandemic-era rent moratoriums expired, eviction bans lifted, leaving hundreds of thousands facing housing crises. Psychologically, economic uncertainty shattered middle-class security, transforming car dwelling from an extreme choice into rational risk avoidance. Federal data shows single-night homelessness reached 771,480 people in 2024, an 18% annual growth rate, the highest on government record. An Oregon former restaurant manager nails it. 3 years ago, if someone said they lived in their car, I'd think it was personal failure. Now, I live in my car myself and know at least 10 people like me. We're not failures. We're the rational output of this economic model. 2025 America. Debt bomb countdown. America in 2025 has crossed a point of no return. The average citizen carries over $15,000 in personal debt, while the nation itself is racing toward $38 trillion, a sum that can never be repaid. This isn't an economic fluctuation, it's structural collapse. Households, banks, and government are sinking simultaneously. Truth 1. $15,000. The straw that broke the camel's back. Average American personal debt has broken through $15,000, a historic tipping point. Families are no longer financing opportunity. They're financing basic survival. The composition of this $15,000 is even more terrifying. Mortgages, car loans, credit cards, personal loans, home equity loans, short-term installment products, layers upon layers of debt. Average monthly payments exceed $1,237. Essentially adding a second rent payment to typical households. Household debt balances grew 2.4% year-over-year, pushing total U.S. consumer debt past $17.5 trillion, while inflation erodes purchasing power and real disposable income shrinks. Americans are accumulating debt faster than they can pay it off. Truth 2. Debt composition, every category exploding. Mortgages remain the largest share, but the real concern is the acceleration in other categories. Home equity loan balances surged 7.2% year-over-year, exposing deeper vulnerability. Homeowners are extracting equity at rates that signal financial distress, not financial strategy. Cash-out refinancing has become a substitute for income growth. Credit cards form the second major pressure line, with balances expanding 3.12% in 12 months, and average APRs breaking through 22 to 28%. Americans aren't using cards for discretionary purchases. They're using them to bridge the gap inflation creates in groceries, utilities, and transportation. Auto loans add another layer of pressure. Average balances approach $25,000. Average monthly payments exceed $740, and loan terms stretch to 84 months. About 7.5% of borrowers are over 90 days delinquent, indicating systemic weakness. Student loans add additional constraints. Balances approach $1.77 trillion, and resumed payments drain billions in disposable income from households monthly. Truth 3. Stock market bubble, a fragile tower under AI narrative. Stock market valuations in 2025 approach historical extremes. The S&P 500 P/E ratio hovers near historic highs, but the risk isn't just the numbers, it's the concentration. The Magnificent Seven, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta, Tesla, account for nearly 30% of S&P 500 market cap. This means, if any one of these 7 companies stumbles, it triggers a market-level tsunami. More dangerous is the AI narrative. Markets position artificial intelligence as a transformative force, but financial markets have already priced in perfection before sustainable profits arrive. If earnings growth slows even slightly, automated trading systems act immediately, converting mild corrections into cascading liquidations. The historical comparison is chilling. In 1929, the stock market peaked at a P/E ratio of 33x, considered extreme at the time. 2025 sits slightly below that threshold, but capital concentration in few companies makes the risk far exceed the Dow era. Truth 4. Real estate bomb, residential and commercial double collapse. Residential market. Prices are roughly 50% above long-term trends, a margin far exceeding the 2008 peak. The key issue is affordability. With mortgage rates hovering around 7%, median households now need nearly $120,000 in annual income to buy a median-priced home. This figure exceeds most Americans' capacity, creating a structural gap between price tags and actual buyer support. Commercial real estate reveals deeper fractures. Remote work erased the assumptions supporting office building valuations, with national vacancy rates approaching 45%, confirming this shift is permanent. These buildings were financed at 3% rates, and over $2 trillion in commercial mortgages must refinance at 7 to 9% rates. A San Francisco commercial developer admits, "We have an office building valued at $80 million in 2019, now worth $35 million. The bank wants us to cover the $50 million gap or hand over the keys. We don't have $50 million. Truth 5. $38 trillion debt. National bankruptcy countdown. Federal debt has broken through $38 trillion, with the debt-to-GDP ratio approaching 125%, a level historically associated with fiscal distress, not stability. With rising interest rates, the government now pays over $1.2 trillion annually just on interest for existing debt. This figure already exceeds the entire defense budget and equals Social Security spending. A Chicago economist warns, "We're entering uncharted territory. When the stabilizer itself needs saving, who saves it?" Endgame. The mechanics of collapse. When household pressure, corporate stress, and banking fragility align simultaneously, the system becomes sensitive to even the slightest disturbance. The trigger could be a major tech company missing earnings, a regional bank announcing unexpected losses, a failed bond auction, or geopolitical escalation. The specific cause is secondary. What matters is that underlying conditions are already unstable. The consequences won't be a typical recession, but economic reorganization. Retirement accounts dropping 60 to 70%, wiping out decades of savings. Millions postponing retirement indefinitely. Home prices collapsing, trapping owners who can't sell. Younger generations entering a labor market with fewer opportunities and lower wages. Mass extinction of small businesses. This is America in 2025, a debt time bomb with the countdown already begun.